All right, at this time, I'd like to call the parish meeting to order. I'd like to ask Councilman Rubin to lead us in a prayer and Councilman Tabor to lead us in the pledge.
Dear Lord, we come to you on this evening. We give you all the praise and all the glory, Father. Father, we thank you for allowing us to join together as one. Though we come with many hearts, but joined as one in one common goal, and that's to lift you up. And Lord, tonight we ask you that you stay in the midst of this meeting, give us the wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, so that way when we walk out of here, we'll be that much greater as one. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of
the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, thank you, Councilman Rubin, and thank you, Councilman Tabor. Appreciate it very much. We welcome you to the Parish Council meeting. As presiding officer and chair, I'd like to announce the following. This is a public hearing. To address the council on any item on this agenda, please fill out the speaker form or call in to 291-8428 to submit your information to the clerk prior to the call of the agenda item, or you will not be given an opportunity to speak. The staff assistance is available if needed. Items for submission to the council should be handed to Council Clerk Ms. Veronica Williams, who is seated to my left, your right. When addressing the council, state your name and title for the official record. The 5-minute rule will be in effect for each speaker. Just want to make it clear that on the 5-minute rule, it's per person. No one can defer their 5 minutes to the next person, to the next person, to the next person. So if you come up to speak, that individual person gets 5 minutes. No one can then pass their remaining time over to the next speaker, okay? So each person, constituent gets 5 minutes, but no one will be allowed to defer their 5 minutes to the next speaker and the next speaker, all right? No debating or confrontational statements will be allowed. The front row to my left is for media only. Food and drinks are not allowed in the auditorium, and we ask that you please silence all phone or electronic devices. Meeting procedures are by resolution and not by Robert's Rules of Order. All documents with reference to meetings can be found on the LCG website. And finally, the council encourages your involvement in boards or commissions. If you're interested, we ask that you please call 291-8800. Again, that's 291-8800. Moving to chair announcements. If you call 291-8428, 291-8428 to place your name on the list, you will be contacted to speak during the public comment portion of the agenda item in which you signed up to speak. Also noting John Gilbo Parish District 4 is absent due to medical reasons. As per state law, the millages will be read in full. Due to Hurricane Laura, first off, I hope everyone turned out okay with the storm. Hopefully your families were safe and your relatives are doing okay. If you had anybody in Lake Charles and Cameron Parish, we continue to pray for those that lost everything and are having to move to different towns to live and find rent, meanwhile, while they're trying to rebuild. So our hearts and prayers and condolences go out to those, and thank God Lafayette dodged a bullet. We had some issues, but we turned out very blessed, and we're very fortunate for that. So due to the hurricane, wrap-up session has been rescheduled to September 3rd from August 27th, and the final adoption of the budget was rescheduled to September 17th, which it was originally for September the 10th. I don't have any council announcements as a chair, and then I will turn it over to my fellow council members. Any council announcements? Okay, seeing none. At this time, we'll move to the Executive Mayor's President's Report. I'd like to recognize Mayor President Guillory for the report, and your mic is hot, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We have, the first item is the budget to actual comparison of major parish funds, July 2020 preliminary. That was submitted to all council members. Director Toops is behind me if you have any questions.
Okay.
Seeing none, Mr. Chair, I'd like to address something that is on all of our minds, surely on all of our hearts, in all of our hearts. And I want to take a moment to acknowledge the grief of a family who has lost a son, a brother, a nephew, a cousin, and a friend. I'd ask all of you to please join me as we pray for the soul of Treyford Pellering and all those in our community who are grieving. Please join me. Thank you. Also, I've spoken with the state police and the district attorney's office, and I've relayed some concerns that were given to me by the public, by the community, and I've made a promise that I'd relay these concerns. And I've respectfully asked that sufficient resources be allocated for a timely and thorough resolution of the process. It's important that we as an administration or the councils not interfere with the work of the district attorney or the state police, as anyone who cares about the truth and the tragedy surrounding Treyford Pellering will insist on an independent investigation free from outside influence. It's important. Also, Mr. Chair, and to the public, I want to clarify a few things on my recent executive order regarding congregating around in downtown. So to clear up any confusion, my June 26th order, which is about 2 months ago, it was regarding congregating downtown, was implemented as a measure to reduce the risk of COVID-19 caused by young people gathering in crowds. It was extended. It was extended till September 15th to coincide with the end date of the most recent Phase 2 proclamation by the governor. Also, Mr. Chair, with your permission, we'd like to recognize a few LCG members that took the time to come be with us today. I'll turn it over to our Chief Administrative Officer, but before Sidra reads the list, I know how hard you worked this past hurricane. I know there's a lot of preparation that went into that, so look, from the bottom of all of our hearts, thank you for your hard work, and Sidra.
Yes, thank you for the opportunity. We have had some long days behind us, and we're fortunate that we've got incredibly dedicated staff here tonight, so that we can just recognize them. This is just a few people who not only worked, in the recovery, but really worked throughout the storm, leading up to the storm, prep for the storm. So in no particular order, with IS&T, our Information Services and Technology Department, if you'll please stand. I think we have Ryan Meir here. I don't see him standing, but Ryan and several others of IS&T slept here at City Hall on cots through the night, ensuring that our network was secure and operational throughout the storm. And certainly, we were grateful for that. From Parks and Recreation, could you please stand? I know we have Mr. Royal Hill here, and I think Ross Gresham there. Royal's over our rec centers, and Ross is our head of maintenance. Both of those gentlemen were out and about immediately after the storm, checking on our facilities, ensuring that everyone was safe and secure. Also, special thanks to Royal for his assistance in getting us set up with the National Guard at several of our rec centers. They're being housed there during the Guard's time here. Thank you, gentlemen. With drainage, can our drainage crew stand up that are in the audience tonight? Thanks, guys. I know we were supposed to have 4 of us here. We've got Jamie Fall, Scotty Cormier, Dwayne Moe. Those guys are our equipment operator. Well, they're the foremans, and they can also operate equipment. And then Billy Patan's a heavy equipment operator. I can tell you that I was personally out on Thursday morning tooling around the city, and I stumbled across Scotty and some of his crew, and they were out there actively working to clear any clogs. That was after the storm. That's not even to talk about the work that they did pre-storm to ensure that people's property was safe. With traffic, roads, and bridges, could you please stand? I believe we have Robin Strong and Ross Hollenbeck. Did y'all make it in? Awesome. Thank you, guys. And of course, we've got Director Warren Abity. These guys worked hard immediately following the storm to make sure that debris was cleared from the roadway. They were out, had chainsaws, heavy equipment. They were really fast acting. So thank you for your work in getting that taken care of so timely. Also with Public Works, is John Bowden with us? John, he made it in, there you go. There, and then, of course, Chad Nava is our Public Works Director. Of course, you know, Public Works work is always understated in times of emergency response, and certainly this particular emergency was no different. LUS, I know that we have our director, our interim director, Lowell Duyon, in the audience. Lowell, if you can please stand and be recognized. LUS, certainly it goes without saying, we were very fortunate to have as little damage as possible, but LUS's crews were out, I mean, not just, you know, after the storm, but during the storm, helping to restore people's power, and we're grateful for them. The staff actually couldn't be here tonight because many of them are providing mutual aid assistance to our neighbors who are still working to get reestablished. Also, I want to acknowledge Kayla Miles Brooks with our LUS Fiber department. Kayla's the interim director as well, and certainly Kayla and her crew were very quick on getting all of the fiber services restored to our neighbors and our residents and our businesses throughout the city and the parish. Thank you very much for your hard work. Finance and management is often some unsung heroes. They work diligently behind the scenes, and people don't know or see their work. Right behind us, we've got, of course, our director, Chief Financial Officer, Lori Toops. She doesn't give herself enough credit. She wants to praise her team, Thomasina, in purchasing for helping procure all of the PPE that was needed for our staff to get out and work during the storm. We also want to acknowledge Tammy and Karen. We had a payroll, and that payroll went on even though we had a storm, and they were able to get the payroll done early so that employees could have that money in advance of the storm, which is, you know, it was no small feat, let me tell you. As well as Spencer and Melinda. These guys are the ones who are helping us to follow all FEMA procurement compliance guidelines and ensure that every dollar that Lafayette City and Parish is owed back through the FEMA reimbursement that we get, and they are amazing at their job, and we're incredibly lucky to have them. Hollis Conway is our Director of Community Development. I'm not sure if he or any of his staff made it inside the auditorium, but Hollis and his crew will be working diligently in the coming weeks and months to help us with additional funding that might be coming down through the federal government, but also to help citizens rebuild through some of our housing programs. So their work is incredibly important. Not only that, but the work of some of Hollis's team members that were working hard to secure our assets, like the Hyman Center throughout the event. So we're grateful to them. Also, I want to acknowledge Captain Chris Duplichan with our fire department. You know, these guys are always out on the front lines, and they were certainly ready to get out there and perform their search and rescues as necessary. Fortunately, I think it was relatively quiet in terms of that particular work, but their efforts always are appreciated. Now, our police, I don't know if we have any police here, if we have Interim Chief Morgan. They've continued to work throughout this public safety emergency and make sure that our citizens are safe. Not only giving of their professional time, but their personal time. Legal, we've got both Paul and Greg is here somewhere. They work feverishly to help us with some of the legal maneuvers that we have to jump through to get through some of the procurement processes and to draft some of these emergency ordinances to make sure that everyone's safe. And last but not least on the list here is from our Development and Planning Department. If you guys could stand up. We've got Stephanie Weeks. She's our floodplain manager. And Bruce Williams, he is our chief building official. Certainly, Stephanie's work in the floodplain management is important for citizens year-round, for them to understand, you know, where they live and how we can support, do a better job across a parish for all of our citizens for floodplain management. And Bruce's team is going to be out there inspecting buildings that might need to be rebuilt following any disaster. So thank you for indulging me and allowing me to take this time. I don't think that our staff necessarily gets enough credit when they do incredible work, but these people really were working literally around the clock before, during, and after the storm, and I think it's worth the time to acknowledge them. So thank you for doing so, and if we can, give them a small round of applause.
Okay, thank you. Mayor President, anything else? You good? Okay.
And Mr. Chair,
Yes, ma'am.
if I may, I want to start announcing, I'll start putting it on the future agendas. We only have 3 meetings to the November meeting. And the November and December meeting, we want to let the public know that the November and December meetings will be held on the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month, the 2nd and 4th Tuesdays of the month. November 3rd, as everyone knows, is an election day, and we are prohibited by law on having a meeting on a day of an election, especially with this being a polling location.
Gotcha.
2nd and 4th, November and December.
All right. Thank you. Appreciate that. Councilman Rubin, you have the floor, sir.
Thank you, Chairman. I also would like to give a few thank yous out as well. If y'all know, in 16, my whole neighborhood was underwater. And prior to the hurricane, drainage came out there, and they cleaned out a lot of ditches and a lot of different debris in the community. I want to thank them for that. Prior to that, Shidra came out there, and she didn't come out there, but she got them to drop a load of sand right there in the neighborhood, so that way we could have take care of the elderly, because we have a lot of elderly in our community. We was able to take care of a lot of elderly. We want to thank you for that. And right after the hurricane, we had trees down, and they came out there and they took care of that real quick, got them out the street. So I would like to thank everyone that was involved for helping out in the community. Thank you very much.
There you go. Cool deal. Thank you, Mr. Rubin. Appreciate that. We'll go ahead and move now to comments from the public on any matters that is not on the agenda. Just want to make sure everybody understands it's public comment, and it's for items not on the agenda. Ms. Williams will announce the names and what we want to do, because we have 18 speakers at 5 minutes apiece. We want to make sure that you get your point across and get to speak, and the council's going to hold conversation and let you get your full 5 minutes in. If there's any questions or anything you would like for us to get back with you on, we can give that to the clerk and we can answer you back. And we're going to rotate the podiums, because we have to wipe them down from time to time. So just rotate it and be courteous. And again, let's make sure we're not attacking anybody, no matter if it's in the council or administration or whoever, employees. We take pride in our employees. We take pride in being professional in Lafayette, and let's just try to keep it clean, okay? I appreciate it very much. Thank you for your time. Call the first speaker.
The first speaker is it Rayleigh Harper?
Bailey
It looks like an R, but Bailey Harper, followed by Natasha Heimel. And if Natasha could come up, as we call the second speaker, just stand to the podium, just stand kind of back until that speaker has completed their comments.
Also, Ms. Williams, before we get started, I know we have some employees in here that are in here, but we also have some citizens that are media that's trying to get in here. So if you are a director and you can go in the other room until you're needed, that would be greatly appreciated, just so that other people trying to attend the meeting can come in. I'd really appreciate it.
So if you're an LCG employee, if you can move to the large conference room right next door to free up the seats for those citizens waiting to come in.
Okay, hold on one second, sir. All right, your mic's on.
Okay, check. Okay, cool. I had some mic issues last time, so forgive me. All right, hi, I'm Bailey Harper, lifelong Lafayette citizen, also present at the protest on the 30th. Yes, we exist. No, we did not come on a jet. I have a few questions. First, by your estimate, what is the percentage of law enforcement officers who are active in Lafayette PD that actually reside in the city and communities that they police?
We can answer that over there. We're not going to be in a question and answer, but go ahead.
Okay.
But make note of that.
My second is, what measures are being taken to ensure complete transparency and neutrality in the investigation of the murder of Treyford Pellering? I know you had addressed that earlier, but I want to know if there's any specifics you can provide as far as like what the investigation entails. Third, it was recently reported that the police in Dusson went out of their way to contact a mental health expert in order to expand the department's skills in training and dealing with mental health issues. Lafayette PD reportedly denied this training when it was offered to them. Do you think this was a mistake in light of recent events? And what is the department doing to remedy this issue? My fourth question is, there's been a lot of talk about both sides coming together and holding proper and civil discourse. Is the Lafayette Consolidated Government willing to help foster that discussion? And if so, what have y'all done or plan to do to meet with local community leaders in talking about these issues? The fourth is, aside from the unfortunate looting of city trends, there's been no major violation of property or life in the local community during these protests. Yet, on the first night of protests following Treyford Pellering's death, police officers showed up in military-style tactical gear and utilized tear gas against local residents. Do you feel this was a proportional response, and what kind of environment does this foster for proper political discourse? Also, Josh Guillory and other local government officials have passed policies that specifically targeted local activists. These measures include the aforementioned banning of assembly in the downtown area, which is unconstitutional, and the shutting down of hurricane relief shelters, citing the protests as the reason why. The administration later backpedaled, saying it was due to COVID concerns, but according to the official email, only protests were originally cited, and the pandemic only mentioned after media attention. How is this an appropriate response to the people's cries for justice in the city of Lafayette, and how does the Lafayette Consolidated Government plan to make amends? And lastly, have you eaten, Josh? Are you hungry?
I don't know what that has to do with it, but okay.
That's it.
Thank you. Next speaker, Natasha, and she will be followed by Jerry Monroe. And Mr. Monroe could come up.
Hello, Council, and my fellow neighbors. Of course, Black Lives Matter. I'm sure everybody else is going to speak about that. I'm here today. My statement will be a bit triggering for some. If you have ever patronized the Acadiana Center for the Arts, I'd like you to please stand if you're willing to stand. As of yesterday, I am no longer employed at Acadiana Center for the Arts. I believe that this is because I was sexually assaulted by a contract photographer. His name is Brandon G. Rochon, R-O-C-H-O-N. He's a 38-year-old man with 3 children and a resident of Karen Crow. I'm not an out-of-towner. I live in the same streets. This man is also the owner of BGR Designs and often shoots headshots with young, beautiful women and men. I demand the removal of Samuel Oliver from his position at Acadiana Center for the Arts as soon as possible. These sexual assaults should not be swept under the rug, and he's doing a great job at hiding my story. As Josh, I addressed you before, we both agree that we love the arts, so why should this happen in our arts community? I encourage Olivia Regard, one of our board members at the ACA, or I say their board members, to come forward with information she has received, because I know for a fact that she has been working with Sam Oliver. And I know that she has a personal practice. I will not mention it here. The ACA has a great board, a great team of volunteers, and that's all I stayed for. I stayed for those volunteers, and I stayed for the public. I've been used and abused. I was underpaid, etc. I encourage all of our board members, and especially those I've become close to, Taylor Davis and his wife, John Williams and his wife, Joelle Savoy, Mary Nyheisel. She loves to drink champagne, and I love to pour it for her. I usually refer to her as Mrs. Nyheisel. Dan Hare of UL Lafayette, and every board member and every patron of the arts to seek justice and find out what actually happened. Talk to me and talk to my lawyers. I will definitely talk to my legal team, and if you'd like to be on it, please contact me. Stand up, Lafayette. Sweeping sexual assault under the rug is obviously a crying shame, and I encourage my council members and everyone in this room and in the city of Lafayette to help me and stand behind survivors of sexual assault. Mayor President, tell me your stance when you're able. Thank you.
Next speaker is Jerry Monroe, followed by Tara Laxey.
I have a nickel in my hand. It'll come into play in a minute. This is considered a limited public forum, and for the attorneys that sit up there, I filed a federal lawsuit against a limited public forum, and I won in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. So to suppress my speech in any manner in here tonight, minus a threat that you would have to define, I will sue you. Now you're gonna sit there and eat this soup. I'm not the average activist. I'm not the average advocate. I'm the best in the state of Texas. I was asked to come here. And the other day I got word that if I don't leave town, that I'm gonna go to jail. Hopefully you can get me there before they stop feeding folk, because I'm a big old boy. And I ain't leaving. I've dealt with mayors, and I remember a mayor in Minneapolis. See, George grew up in the same neighborhood I grew up in. He actually went to the same high school. So I was on the ground in Minneapolis one day after they killed him. But the mayor wouldn't listen to me. So I got to watch his town burn to the ground. Because I'm just out of town, I don't know nothing. Well, when he decided to listen, it was too late. I deal with politicians every day, and the one thing I figured out is y'all are not the smartest people in the room most of the time. Because you lack the one degree that you actually need. You may have a BA, you may have a master's, but you do not have a degree in common sense. How is the shepherd of the city the one that pandered with your man, Mr. whatever his name, going through the black neighborhood to get the votes? How do you not acknowledge the black side of town? I know why you don't acknowledge them, because they don't donate to your campaign, so you only take care of the ones that actually do. What you want me to do is you want me to work with the community and educate them. What you really need to do, because I got the money to do it, is stop violating federal law when it comes to the Constitution, the First Amendment, and the right to peacefully protest. I will file a federal lawsuit against the person that institutes that again. Now, as far as your DA, I don't know why you employ them, because you turn this heinous crime over to the state police. Mr. Mayor, you're an attorney. You have probable cause. I know, because I'm majoring in criminal justice right now. You have enough probable cause to arrest those officers. You have enough probable cause, and if you were a respectful man, you don't have to release the body cam to us. You could put that family in one room and let them look at that body cam. So why do you employ a DA that doesn't have the common sense to even do this? This ain't the fight you want. Because I'm going to tell you what I control right now. You remember in the movie Malcolm when he put his finger up and he pointed like that? You control them. How you feel that an out-of-towner got control of your whole neighborhoods? I am the reason, and Chris is the reason that your city is not tore up right now. So you're going to put some respect on my name. The next time one of y'all threaten me, I will definitely sue you. Now I want to ask you, because I got 44 seconds, you did good today, but I still got to spank you. If you're going to be the shepherd, remember I told you these nickels would come into play? God did not make nickels. The white man made nickels. And you will not treat those black people on the north side of town like nickels ever again.
Next speaker is Tara Laxey, followed by Devon Norman.
Good afternoon, Tara Laxey, Unity 7. It has been 11 very sad days, 11 very embarrassing days here in the city of Lafayette. Our brother, Treyford Pellering, was shot at least 11 times in the back Friday before last, killed, murdered by the city police department here in Lafayette. That night, our mayor and Carlos Harvin showed up for the photo op but didn't speak. Shame on y'all. Saturday, we had a rally the following day. Our mayor, Parish president, couldn't show his face either in support. Shame on you. But you stood at the street corner for George Floyd's protest walk on the corner of Johnson Street and University. And I applaud you for that, even though it was a photo op. But you stood at the corner in support of our protest for someone who wasn't even from Louisiana. And you could not give my brother the same respect at any rally, at any protest, whatever. And I think that's a damn shame. Our mayor signed an executive order naming streets downtown and parks downtown, using COVID and green spaces, using COVID-19 as an excuse. But in reality, he was covering up using COVID-19 to block the protesters. If he was so worried about COVID-19, on August 18th, when he came to the Domain Center and he brought over 20 people to help him at the Domain Center for his photo op, and Mr. Rubin, you were there, Josh walked around more than 95% of the time with no mask. The news media has pictures. I have pictures in my phone of him standing in a large group of people, shoulder to shoulder with no mask. Don't use COVID-19 as an excuse. You're trying to block our peaceful protesting. Our mayor has also, in the 11 days, denied homeless people from Lake Charles, affected by Hurricane Laura, entry into Lafayette to help shelter them. That is not who we are in the city of Lafayette. So shame on you, council members present right now. Shame on the city council members for keeping y'all mouths shut and not standing up against Josh Guillory. This is not who we are. You do not deny helping people, letting them come here to give them shelter who have been through a crisis. And shame on Carlos Harvin for calling me last Saturday morning wanting to participate in my little barbecue in front of Josh's house, wanting to speak to the community in support, saying that he would bring Josh out to us so he would address us on his turf. Since he's so scared of the north side, he can't address us on our turf. And Josh called him after he drove up. And Carlos said, yes, Mayor, I understand. It's on my live feed. And Carlos jumps in a car and he leaves. And just a couple of minutes later, there's at least 5 officers there to arrest me, someone who has never gotten a speeding ticket even in her life. And I sat in a jail cell, not just intake. So shame on y'all. It's been a disgusting, embarrassing 11 days in the city of Lafayette. I am embarrassed right now to live here. I am embarrassed to be represented by all of you, including the city council who doesn't sit down yet. And for my last 30 seconds, for the 11 gunshots that went into my brother, my son, my nephew, my cousin, Treyford Pellering's back and killed him, I say this: say his name. Say his name. Say his name.
Treyford Pellering. Treyford Pellering.
Say his name.
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 Treyford Pellering.
Next speaker is Devon Norman, followed by Jalen Mouton.
As many of you know, my name is Devon Trey Norman. I am the Young Adult Committee Chairperson of the NAACP here in Lafayette. I'm also a member of a group called The Village that was formed out of what has gone on over the last week. I'm also disheartened, disappointed, and blatantly disgusted by the way this government, the administration, and all officials and all those in leadership have handled this crisis. Most of you have been silent, and those of you that have not been silent, your disposition has been apparent in ways that I can't even begin to discuss in this forum. I'm trying my very best to be emotionless and to be direct in what I'm saying. However, I must make myself very clear. Every single time that I've approached this body, I have warned you about what was coming to this city. I have warned you about the sickness that was embedded in this city and the sickness that was making itself to be true in this city. And the only thing that you can do now is look back at me while I speak about what God has already spoken about. Now, many of you, including you, Mr. Carlson, call yourself ministers and Christians. However, when the mayor president offered up a prayer, you looked around at everybody else, and I know you were not praying because the Bible says to try the Spirit by the Spirit, and I didn't feel anything. And so what is happening in this government is that you've made a mockery and a foolery of God, and you've made a mockery and a foolery of the people of Lafayette, and we are sick and tired of it. Now, if you expect nice kumbayas to continue to come from us, it's never going to happen again. So this is what I'm telling you. What is going to continue to happen is that we will continue to march. We will show up in your neighborhoods, and we will march down your streets. We will march until you can't sleep, until something changes. No, we're not threatening you. We're not saying that violence and fire is going to come. But what we are saying is that you will be very uncomfortable, because every single night of my life, I don't get sleep. I walked in this building today, and I was approached by a police officer with a nasty attitude. Do you know what that means for a black man? My life has to flash before my eyes every single time I'm approached by a police officer, especially one in his disposition. Coming to a meeting in the environment that we're in today. The Lafayette Police Department is a joke to this country. And I'm going to say it again, and Mayor President, we asked you this on yesterday, and we expressed this on yesterday. It is imperative that the interim chief of police resign. We've already made it clear, Mr. Mayor President, on your position. And what I will not continue to do is continue to play around at these council meetings when nothing is being done. And so on today, what we have is that we've continued to come here day after day after you tried to take away the parks and recreation centers. Still, those 37 employees are still not hired back. We've tried to do it the right way. We've tried to get the community engaged. Well, here you have it. So I told you when I would come back again, the community would be engaged. And now, Mr. Mayor President, you are more known by the north side on the community than you've ever been before. I don't think any Republican is as well known in our community as you are now. Congratulations. Thank you. Congratulations to the government. Now we're all engaged. So what I'm telling you is that something has got to change. Otherwise, this will, and I'm telling you also that this is not going to be the same Lafayette of yesteryear, of last week. It's a new city. It's a new day. And like I said before, it's not a moment. It is a movement. So we will continue to move our people. We will continue to stand on our ground. We will continue to oppose you at every time you try to come against our constitutional rights. I'm so confused as to why there's so much security here on today when the only threat that you could have said was that there was a threat to you and your family because somebody was barbecuing across the street from your house. When I have received multiple death threats, my family has received death threats. I've had somebody that I know has had their address posted on social media. Millions of people have seen this video where a man ran his vehicle into protesters and none of you said anything. Yet we have the police infiltrated in our community and also at this council meeting. Why? Because of us? We couldn't even sit on the front row. So now you're pushing us back to the back? It's not going to happen. Then we also noticed the oppression. When we came in here, you knew what kind of meeting this was going to be today, and yet you still had this meeting filled with employees. Thank them for their service, but this is not the place or the time. So now I'm going to end this by speaking and encouraging my people. Keep your eyes on the prize and hold hold on, my Lordy, hold on. The only thing we done wrong, we stayed in the wilderness a day too long. So keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, my Lordy, hold on. One thing we done right is today we decided to fight. So keep your eyes on the prize and hold on, my Lordy, hold on.
Next speaker is Jalen Mouton, followed by Morgan Prejean.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jalen Mouton, and I'm here to address what happened to Treyford Pellering. My name is Jalen Mouton, and I'm a concerned citizen of this parish, this state, and this country. I come here to speak on the murder of Treyford Pellering. I didn't know him personally, but what I can tell you about him is that he was a child of God and a black man targeted just for being black. Treyford just changed the world. He changed minds for sure, because I finally know what my purpose is on this earth, and that is to represent every single black soul lost due to racism and police brutality. I am not a lawyer and don't plan to be one, but one thing I know is that LPD violated Treyford's constitutional rights. The first one that they violated was his 14th Amendment right. All persons born are naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States and of the state wherein they reside. No state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law, nor deny to any person within its jurisdiction the equal protection of the laws. With that being said, we demand that you turn in body cam footage and the names of the officers who shot and killed Treyford. It was unjustified, and we all know it. So now you have forced the black community's hand. I will bring you back to another constitutional right that cannot be revoked, the Fourth Amendment. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. From here on out, we will protect our own from bad police ethics. We will educate and organize in a manner that will reflect what unity really is. Police brutality and racism will not exist any longer. We demand justice for Treyford, justice for Victor White, justice for every black soul lost to unjust acts of the law. Here is another constitutional right that you have tried to demolish. Our First Amendment right, the most basic one. That's why we are a free country. Freedom of speech, religion, press, and most of all, protest. We have the right to do all of these things as a free state and a free country. So as we protest and take to the streets of Lafayette, we shall also exercise our Second Amendment right, the right to bear arms. If my people of this city started to come together sooner, the murder of Treyford would have never happened. We are not law enforcers, but we will police our own communities. That's where it starts. In closing, I would like to say this: Treyford's murder might not get attention it deserves, which is a blessing and a curse. It's a blessing because we and his family wouldn't want Treyford's name to go in vain because of some narrative that the media will portray. It's a curse because not enough people will know how much this has affected a whole city. We will fight for Treyford, and I promise I will do all I can to make sure this doesn't happen again in my city. Thank you.
Next speaker, please.
Next speaker is Morgan Prejean, followed by Donald Broussard.
First off, I want to apologize. I'm sorry you and your family had to see those pork chops flip so many times. I know that was tragic. Second off, obviously Lafayette Police Department is completely unfit. It's out there. Y'all can look up the amount of training these people do. It is ridiculous, the small amount of training that they have to do compared to other places in this country and compared to other countries. Obviously, what happened to Treyford has everything to do with race. Anyone who has any other thoughts on it is delusional. It has everything to do with race. I'm here with my boyfriend tonight. He's 6'5". He's a tall black man with dreads, okay? He's a threat. I'm a threat. Everybody is a threat that looks like us that walks out there. And to not believe that and to not understand that is white privilege, and it's a part of the system of white supremacy. These people need to be retrained, and this footage needs to be released, period. The footage is not released, and my time is not set. I don't know, but if y'all started, I still want my 5 minutes. But, yeah, that footage needs to be released from the Shell station and from the officers. Obviously, I think it goes without saying something is up. It's been over a week since this happened, and everybody's awfully quiet that has anything to do with this or any authority on it. Everybody's awfully quiet, and it seems as though they're trying to cover something up and corroborate a story. And we know, and we will not stop fighting for justice. It's not safe for us here, and Lafayette is not a friendly place if you're black. Go look at KTC and KLFY comments at your neighbors in Elite River Ranch neighborhood. Go look at the comments. Go see all these racist people, the hateful, ugly things they say. And we have to see this, and we have to go to work every day. We have to go and be a part of this city every day, knowing that these people are supposed to be our neighbors, and knowing what they think of us, knowing that they think so poorly of us, knowing that our cops really have no power, because our power comes from within. All these people have is a badge, and they have no training, obviously, in de-escalation, or he wouldn't have been shot. Even if he did have a weapon, which I don't believe he did, it should have been de-escalated. You mean to tell me all those cops, between one person with a knife, couldn't disarm him? That's embarrassing. So I don't feel safe here in any way. I don't feel safe because I know that I'm a threat to these officers for some reason. If I get pulled over, never had a good encounter, ever, not once. They've all been negative. They've all been scary and threatening to me. So I'm not understanding how all these officers, I'm not safe because they profile us, and I'm clearly not safe because their skill set is extremely low if they couldn't disarm somebody with one knife between 8 people or however many people it was. We waiting for y'all to release the statement so we can know the facts, because as of now, all we can do is speculate and go off of a video that was put out online, when really by now all this should have been released. Also, as they mentioned before, you've targeted us so many times that are trying to protest and just exercise our rights. I'm a part of the village as well with my brother Devon and many other leaders in this community, young leaders. We're mobilizing. So just know, young people are not asleep anymore out here. We are not going to be complacent anymore, and we will not stop. And it's a shame the way that you're trying to paint us in the media. So you telling me it's our fault that you don't want to help people from Lake Charles? Because we're protesting? It's not dangerous at all, dude. Like, how cowardly are you?
Peaceful protest.
It's not dangerous whatsoever. Nothing we're doing is dangerous. Have you looked at the news? Portland? These people are burning stuff down. We're not doing that here, okay? Nobody here is doing that, nor do I have intention, or me and my group that I'm with have intentions of doing anything like that. But we don't have intentions on stopping either. And you cannot do that. You're acting just like Trump, actually, just signing stuff with no knowledge of it. It's just really a shame. You know, like, you pretend to care whenever people call you out, you backpedal, and you come out with statements that are well planned, like, you know, it's just PR stunts. We know this. When are you gonna come with something genuine for this community? Because I promise you, what happened last time will not happen again. We will get you out of office if that's what it takes. We know that we can get petitions signed, and we know that we can get you out. Either that or you're just gonna have a really hard time, because you are not liked in this community by people of color, by black people, because you don't represent us well and you don't care about us. I don't care what you come on TV and say after the fact. The first intention is right. Just like they say when somebody show you who they are, believe them. And I've been believing you. So, what else? Treyford Pellering deserves justice. That's the main reason that I'm up here today. We need that footage released. Say his name.
Treyford Pellering.
Exactly. Everybody here is in one collective, and we want justice. And if you really care about your community, you're going to have to start doing some things differently. I believe people can change. I don't know about you. I don't even know you personally, but from what I've seen, it's nothing I like. But if you're a Christian, supposedly, and you care about this community, supposedly, and you care about people of color, and you represent this whole community, just because you were elected by the white people on the south side, that doesn't mean you can neglect the black people and the people of color on the north side. And not just black, because I have a lot of white and other races, friends of other races, that are walking with me in solidarity and fighting against people like yourself. So it's not just black people. You're neglecting a whole everybody that didn't vote for you, you're neglecting. And we will not accept that any longer, period. A barbecue in front of your house is nothing, dog. It's just getting started. So At the end of the day, you need to do some soul searching, and you need to figure out how you can actually get to know what black people go through, get to know what our lives are like every day, and the trauma and everything that we have to go through just on an everyday basis, just going on a drive to work or something. If you want to see peace in this city. No justice.
No peace.
Next speaker.
Mr. Chair, before we proceed on, I'm not trying to hush the citizens, but we did get a couple of calls from citizens, and AOC has confirmed that if you speak over and speak kind of loudly in the mic, you could hear the blowback because the mics are very sensitive. So over the TV you're not being heard clearly. So if you want to step off the mic, if you want to speak a little louder, so your comments could come across clearly. Thank you.
Thank you. And also, let's try not to name call cowards, this and that, please. Just try to keep it respectful, okay?
Okay. Next speaker.
Thank you, Ms. Williams. My voice resonates. My voice resonates real loud. I don't think I need a mic. I noticed that
just trying to
the
keep it
mayor,
professional.
president, and the council opened up this meeting with prayer. And I like to do things decent and in order. And I'm going to open with a scripture and I'm going to close with a scripture. I'm going to try to be as respectful and tactful as I can, but I will be direct because I am a front door individual / black man. I'm going to tell you like it TI is. I'm going to tell you like it IT is. What happened to that young man on Friday, August the 21st, was an execution style murder. You can print it up. You can try to victimize the criminals and criminalize the victim, but it was execution-style murder. And if any one of you sitting up on this council board, Mayor President Guillory, and all the distinguished council members, if you cannot look at that video with a heart, with a conscience, and see that that young man was murdered, he was murdered. Y'all don't shoot deer 11 times. One shot, one kill, send a mask on a deer. Y'all shot that young man 11 times and have the audacity to try to criminalize the victim. In the book of James, chapter 4 and 17, so whoever knows the right thing to do and fails to do it, for he or she, it is counted as sin. Mayor President Guillory, you're an attorney. In different law enforcement agencies across the United States of America, there is what's called a continuum use of force, that all officers are supposedly to undergo this type of training, so that when they encounter an individual or combatant subject on the streets of Lafayette or any other city across the United States, there is a stage and a level of force that they are to engage the subject with. I was in Indianapolis, Indiana, scrolling through Facebook on a business assignment. All of a sudden, I seen a post come across Facebook, and it was live. This wasn't nothing that was the next day or the next night. This was a live Facebook post where I witnessed officers of the Lafayette City Police Department follow a young man a block and a half on a frontage road. It was at least 11 officers around this young man and multiple squad cars that I counted. They followed this young man. Now you're talking about 11 cops. They have a continuum use of force stage level that they had encountered this young man. You're giving him commands. He's not complying. There's also a canine dog. You have pepper spray, the least lethal method to apprehend a combatant or a subject not complying. You have a baton, a asp. You have a canine dog. You have a taser. Then you have your municipal issue sidearm. Now, you being an attorney, Josh, and it don't take a rocket scientist because everybody in here saw they did not go through the progressions and through the stage of the continuum use of force. And it's going to come out later on down the line. In other cities across the United States where young black men or young Hispanic men have been murdered, when there was a weapon present, like they are alleging Treyford had, what do they do the next day or within 48 hours? They release the body cam footage and they release the surveillance footage. Ask yourself that question. We are not ignorant of your devices. We demand that you contact the United States Department of Justice to get the Department of Justice in here with an independent investigation team, because asking the Louisiana State Police to investigate their little brother, the Lafayette Police Department, I've been through it with the Reverend Victor White and his family, with the murder of young Victor White at the hands of the Parish Sheriff's Office. I've been through that with Dejon Guillory and Evangeline Parish, with the state police doing an independent cover-up. Because they don't investigate, they cover up what they done screwed up. Release the body cam footage, Mayor. Release the surveillance footage. Bring this family in and talk to this family. Leaders are supposed to exude empathy. They are supposed to exude sympathy. You have not exuded empathy or sympathy for the Pellering family. And it's a God-forbidden shame. And if you can look at yourself in the mirror and talk about it, go.
5 minutes is up. Thank you. Next speaker. 5 minutes.
Next speaker is William Teeley, followed by Jared Eubanks. Is William Teeley here?
He was outside. I know he was waiting to come in, but he was having difficulty.
Okay, Jared, you could come on up.
William Tilley's in the hall. Does he need to come?
Well, and when he comes in, we'll allow him to speak
Okay,
if he's outside.
All right.
The next speaker after Jared Eubanks is Janice Green.
All right, I don't.
Either one, sir.
They're both.
They're both clean.
All right. Good evening. My name is Jared Eubanks. I live in Mr. Rubin's district, Parish District 5. Thank you guys all for your time tonight. I'm here with a heavy heart and several grievances. Lafayette has always felt like a warm, small-town community to me, but I feel like I have lost sight of the community I love. We are garnering national headlines, and it's for a lack of compassion, not something I want to equate with Lafayette. To be honest, though, it feels like there has been a series of attacks on those in our community most in need. The sudden rec center closures that weren't even communicated to the council in advance were callous and haphazard, self-evident as they've already been reversed on a whim and there was no information on the savings that was supposed to make. An RFP remains open for only the Northside rec centers. A budget is slashed, the budget for Parks and Rec is slashed brutally, and their fate is anything but assured at this point. These facilities were important to the fabric of their communities, as I know you have heard. This is compounded by the fact that over 36 employees, primarily black, are still laid off. Support the city council in fully funding these parks. Request the administration rehire the employees laid off, as they're still in the current active budget, and the city is fighting to have them in next year's budget anyway. HUD funds for the federal government were redirected to small businesses via a grant program administered by LEDA. Not only has the program been stymied by slow processing times and restrictions that apparently no one's clearing, but these grants don't have the same impact as helping people with rent or utility assistance would on the overall community. Preventing homelessness is so much more economically sensible than trying to fight it after the fact. The only response I've seen to this, in fact, is the administration's proposed ordinance that is built to criminalize poverty and homelessness. Vote down Joint Ordinance 79-2010 whenever it comes back up. It is unlawful, unmoral, and unhelpful. Move at least a portion of the unspent HUD funds back from LEDA to community development for rent and utility assistance. The ACLU has called an executive order the administration issued that has language that criminalizes peaceful rallies and protests unconstitutional. Sure, it might predate some of the most recent protests, but it was issued directly after a rally at the Mouton statue, where the administration has now unilaterally made it illegal to gather or protest. Demand that the mayor-president revise his executive order to not impede First Amendment rights and begin working on a resolution if he does not do so. let's talk about the grief and outrage racking Lafayette. Regardless of how you feel about the situation, a dozen or more shots in a man's back is outrageous. Regardless of how you feel about the situation, a family lost a son and a brother. People lost a friend and a neighbor. It should hurt you that the mayor-president spoke multiple times before he even acknowledged the grief of the family. And he refers to those protesting this tragedy as terrorists in the same breath. Release the body cam footage. If it was damning, we all know it would already be released. Move for an elected police chief in this city. There has to be some kind of accountability. Lafayette just made national headlines for refusing to take evacuees from southwest Louisiana after it was decimated by an unparalleled storm. I lived in Lake Charles, the Lake Charles area for Rita. It uprooted families and destroyed lives. But we all know that. We all live in South Louisiana and know the power and impact of these weather events. I mean, this time, it was a crew from Tallahassee that turned my power back on, not people from Lafayette. And I am so thankful for that. But for us to then turn our backs on our neighbors is unconscionable. For the administration to send communication to volunteer organizations using the nonviolent protest as a guise to discourage shelters and aid, and then tell the media and public we're essentially illiterate, that we're misreading those words and that's not what it means, that it was secretly really about COVID, this is shameful. While there may not be time for resolution, I'm imploring the councils to reach out to VOAD and say publicly, we aren't taking anything off the table when it comes to helping our neighbors recovering from Hurricane Laura. Support shelters. Sure, we may need to work with OSEP and the Department of Health to make sure it's done responsibly in the current climate, but don't ban or discourage them. The damage is already done from this communication, though. We need the councils actively encouraging and aiding the process of getting these shelters set up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Next speaker.
Next speaker is Janice Green. Is William Teeley back in? Okay, you're after her. Thank you. Ms. Green, you could begin speaking.
Good evening. My name is Janice Green. I am a majestic Black and African woman who lives in America. That's how I wanted to introduce myself, but after speaking and listening to everyone, I'm also a victim of your police department from 1997. One incident that happened, which I suppressed for many years, but listening to all the things that's happening today, your departments are still the same racist department it's always been. So I say to you today, under no circumstances am I here to shame anyone, and I'm certainly not here to attempt to reform anyone, because that would be a foolish thing to try. Make note that my presence is a clear indication that your behavior and transgression will no longer be the standard to mold my sense of justice for myself and for the masses of Black conscious people. I no longer pledge allegiance to your system that is committed to criminal behavior against Black people. Many members of the community proclaiming to be leaders had backdoor meetings that the community did not choose them to speak on. The very system that is the root of the problems chose the leaders to be the voice for the Black community, speaking loud and saying nothing. I say to you all today, don't speak for me. If you don't have the courage to address what's real and in front of you, if you're not speaking from a position of righteous principles, morals, and grave humanity, then step down and get out the way, because trouble is coming, good trouble. I truly believe in the power of prayer, but I also understand you truly have to know what you're dealing with. Keep God in it, but also recognize when you're dealing with the devil. The reaction that you're seeing is the rise of God waking up its people. I hold in my hand a copy of the Constitution, which you all value so much. But I also know that when it was written, it had no value for my ancestors, and to date, I don't think it has any value for me today. But some of your amendments, or whatever you call them, the Bill of Rights, some of them are going to be valuable for us today. So I say to you all today, if you have any morals and you know what's right, do what is right, okay? Speak truth, and if you have courage, and if you have God, or you proclaim to be a man of God, as many leaders proclaim to do, some members that had backdoor meetings with you, where are they tonight to speak to the people that they supposedly represent. They're hiding, as they always do. So these are the people here you're going to be listening to, the grassroots people, because we're no longer sitting still. So speak truth, keep God in it, but keep God and be real when you're dealing with God. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next speaker.
William Teeley, followed by Keith Falk.
Hello, my name is Will Teeley. I live in Parish District 5. Councilman A.B. Rubin represents me, so thank you to him and thank you to everyone on the Parish Council. I rise today in support of Treyford Pellering, his family, and the Black Lives Matter movement in general. I rise today opposed to the white silence that I've been observing from our white parish council members and from our white mayor president. White silence equals violence. And by that I mean, if white people remain silent while black people are being killed unjustly by law enforcement, then we are just as guilty as those who pulled the trigger. In short, by speaking nothing, this council is speaking volumes. You do not have to have a dark skin tone to be concerned by the horrifying